Camilla Carter stood before the mirror in her cramped rented room on the outskirts of Philadelphia, her trembling hands smoothing the frayed hem of a black dress. This dress had once been her sister Emma's pride when she wore it to her nursing school graduation. Now it was the only item in Camilla's wardrobe formal enough for a charity gala at the Rittenhouse Hotel, where the elite gathered to flaunt their compassion with six-figure checks. Camilla took a deep breath, tying her hair into a neat low bun. The second-hand flats she'd bought at Goodwill squeaked with every step, but she had no other choice. In her small purse, she carefully tucked the invitation Emma had received from the Blackwell Foundation, a thank you for nursing the mother of CEO Adrian Blackwell in her final days. Emma now lay in a hospital bed, weakened by lupus, unable to go anywhere. Camilla had convinced her sister that she'd attend in her place, not for lavish dining, but to seek funding for Emma's treatment. A faint glimmer of hope, but one she couldn't ignore. "Thank you, Mila," Emma had whispered that morning, her tired eyes still holding a spark of warmth. "But be careful. Those people, they're not like us." Camilla smiled, but her heart felt heavy. She knew Emma was right. She was just a third-year nursing student, juggling 3 jobs, waitressing, tutoring, and cleaning to cover tuition and Emma's medical bills. But tonight she couldn't afford fear. She had to be strong for Emma. The Rittenhouse Hotel glowed with lights as Camilla stepped off the number 38 bus 2 blocks away. She couldn't afford an Uber, and her flats left her feet aching after the long walk. The hotel's revolving glass doors reflected her image, a petite, thin girl in a no-brand dress, standing among people in tuxedos and shimmering gowns. She clutched the invitation tightly, as if it were her only ticket to belonging here. Inside the main hall, the air was thick with expensive perfume and the soft strains of a violin. Large banners showcased the Blackwell Foundation, bearing the slogan, "Care today, hope tomorrow." Camilla scanned the room, searching for a friendly face to approach. She'd rehearsed her speech about Emma and the mounting medical bills, but her throat felt dry. "Invitation, miss?" A tall security guard in a black suit stopped her before the staircase to the main ballroom. His tone was polite but cold, his eyes scanning her dress and shoes. Camilla quickly handed over the letter, forcing an awkward smile. "I'm here for my sister, Emma Carter. She couldn't make it." The guard checked his iPad, his brows furrowing. "Emma Carter's on the list, but you're not her. Do you have ID?" Camilla pulled out her student ID, her heart pounding. "I'm Camilla Carter, her sister. She informed the organizers I'd be coming." The guard shook his head, his tone firmer. "No Camilla Carter on the list. I'm afraid you can't enter." "But the invitation is real." Camilla tried to stay calm, but her voice wavered. The guard said, "Wait here while I report to my supervisor." She nodded, trembling with hope. A few nearby guests turned to look, their gazes a mix of curiosity and disdain. Each glance felt like a needle pricking her skin. At that moment, a sharp, cold voice cut through from behind. "What's going on here?" Camilla turned to face a woman in a striking red gown, form-fitting and sparkling under the crystal chandeliers. Her blonde hair was perfectly waved, and her crimson lips curled into an unfriendly smile. Lisa Vaughn. Camilla recognized her instantly from magazine photos. Adrian Blackwell's fiancée, the powerful woman behind many high-profile charity events. "Hello," Lisa said, her eyes appraising Camilla from head to toe. "You seem to be in the wrong place. We don't hand out free meals here." A ripple of giggles spread through the surrounding group. Camilla's face burned, her hands clenching until her nails dug into her palms. "I'm not here to eat," she said, struggling to keep her voice steady. "I'm here for my sister, to request support for—" "For your sister?" Lisa interrupted, her smile sharpening. "Do you think this gala is open to just anyone? If you're not on the list, you should leave before security has to step in." The guard moved forward, placing a hand on Camilla's shoulder. "Miss, please come with me." Camilla stepped back, her heart plummeting. She wanted to scream, to explain, but her throat tightened. The crowd began to murmur. Phones were raised and flashes went off. She heard someone whisper, "Probably another selfie chaser." Tears welled up, but she bit her lip, refusing to cry. Not here, not in front of these people. She turned, hurrying toward the door, her squeaking shoes mocking her. But just as she reached the glass doors, a deep, cold voice rang out, silencing the entire hall. "Stop!" Camilla froze, not daring to turn. The steady click of leather shoes approached her. The crowd parted, making way for a tall man in a black tuxedo, his dark brown hair neatly combed, his piercing blue eyes cold as ice. Adrian Blackwell, Chief Executive Officer of the Blackwell Corporation, the most powerful man in the room. He stopped beside Camilla, his gaze flicking to the guard, then settling on Lisa. No smile, no wasted words. He spoke clearly, his voice echoing through the ballroom. "She's with me." Silence fell. Lisa froze, her smile hardening into a mask. The crowd gaped, phones flashing again, but no one dared whisper now. Camilla looked up at Adrian, her heart racing. He didn't meet her eyes, but his hand lightly touched her elbow, guiding her back toward the ballroom. "Come with me," he said, his voice low, meant only for her. Camilla followed, her squeaking shoes now out of sync with the violin's melody. She didn't know what lay ahead, but in that moment, she felt something new. For the first time in her life, someone had stood up for her. You're watching Soul Stories, where every tale whispers of love, healing, and hope. If you believe that even the smallest act of kindness can change a life, and that love often arrives when we least expect it, don't forget to subscribe and be part of our journey. Now stay with us. The story is just beginning. Camilla followed Adrian Blackwell through the main ballroom of the Rittenhouse Hotel, her second-hand flats squeaking out of place amid the lilting violin music. The crowd's eyes remained fixed on her, but now there were no whispers or curious camera flashes. Adrian's presence was like an invisible wall, silencing the entire room. Camilla felt the faint warmth of his hand lightly touching her elbow, but she didn't dare look up at him. Her heart raced, and a flurry of questions swirled in her mind. Why did he do this? Who was he to her? Did she truly belong here? Adrian led her down a red-carpeted hallway to a smaller room marked VIP only. The heavy wooden door closed behind them, muting the gala's noise. Inside, the space was quieter, with a long wooden table, a few leather chairs, and a large window overlooking Philadelphia's city lights. Adrian released her arm, walked to the table, and poured a glass of water from a crystal pitcher. He handed it to her, his voice low and steady. "Drink. You look like you need it." Camilla took the glass, her trembling fingers causing ripples on the water's surface. She whispered, "Thank you, but I don't understand." "Why did you—" She trailed off, unsure how to phrase it. Why had he saved her from public humiliation? Why did he, a powerful CEO, care about someone like her? Adrian didn't answer immediately. He leaned against the table, his piercing blue eyes studying her. It wasn't the disdainful look Lisa had given or the crowd's curiosity. It was a deep, searching gaze, as if he were looking for something within her. Finally, he said, "You don't remember me, do you?" Camilla blinked, confused. "Remember you? What do you mean?" 2 years ago, Adrian interrupted, his voice softening, tinged with something like sorrow. "At my mother's funeral, you gave me a glass of water. No one dared approach me then, but you did." Camilla froze, memories flooding back like a wave. 2 years ago, at 19, she was working part-time for a catering company to pay for tuition. She'd been assigned to serve at a funeral on the outskirts of Philadelphia, where the atmosphere was so heavy she just wanted to finish and leave. She remembered a young man sitting alone in a corner, head bowed, shoulders trembling slightly. No one approached him, but Camilla, without much thought, quietly placed a glass of water in front of him and walked away. She hadn't known who he was, until now. "That was you," Camilla whispered, her eyes widening. "But I didn't know. I just thought you needed—" "I know," Adrian cut in, the corner of his mouth twitching upward, though the smile didn't reach his eyes. "You didn't do it for attention. You didn't ask for money, a job, or a photo. You were just there. And now, here you are again, in a worn dress, with your sister's invitation to seek help for her. Emma Carter, right?" Camilla nodded, feeling the floor tilt beneath her. He knew about Emma. He knew about her. "My sister cared for your mother," she said, her voice hoarse. "She's very sick, and I thought—" If I came here, I might secure funding from your foundation. I didn't mean to cause trouble. Adrian looked at her, his gaze softening. You're not causing trouble. The people out there are the trouble. They think this gala is a stage to show off, not a place to help others. Camilla lowered her head, gripping the glass tightly. She wanted to believe him, but Lisa's voice echoed in her mind. We don't hand out free meals here, she whispered. I should go. I don't belong here. Don't, Adrian said, his tone sharper. If you leave now, they'll think you're an imposter for real. Stay. Show me what you came here for. Camilla looked up, about to protest, but the VIP room's door swung open before she could speak. Lisa Vaughn stepped in, still in her striking red gown, her smile sweet but sharp as a blade. Adrian, I've been looking for you everywhere, she said, her voice light but her eyes flicking over Camilla like a hawk sizing up prey. I didn't know you were entertaining a guest. Adrian straightened, unfazed. Lisa, this is Camilla Carter. She's here for her sister, Emma Carter, a nurse who worked for my mother. Lisa tilted her head, her smile unwavering. Oh, really? A nurse? How touching. She stepped closer to Camilla, the scent of Chanel perfume filling the air. But I think, Adrian, you should be careful with fangirls lurking around. Not everyone comes here with good intentions. Camilla felt heat rush to her face, but she bit her lip, staying silent. She didn't want to cause more trouble or embarrass Emma. But Adrian, with a voice cold as ice, said, Lisa, if you want to talk about intentions, look at the people running this gala to polish their names. Camilla isn't one of them. Lisa froze, her smile faltering. She looked at Adrian, then at Camilla, her eyes blazing. Oh, I see, she said, her voice syrupy. Should I introduce your new friend Adrian? Or is this just a charity project? Camilla felt the floor drop beneath her. Friend? Charity project? She wanted to flee, to vanish from this room, from Lisa's gaze and Adrian's heavy silence. But Adrian didn't respond to Lisa. He looked at Camilla, his eyes gentle but resolute. She doesn't need me to introduce her, he said, his voice clear. She's Camilla Carter, and she's here for her sister. If you have a problem with that, Lisa, take it up with me. Lisa opened her mouth, but no words came out. She turned, her red dress swirling like a storm, and stormed out, leaving a heavy silence. Camilla looked at Adrian, her heart pounding. I have to go, she whispered. I don't want to cause trouble between you and her. Adrian shook his head, stepping closer. You're not causing trouble, Camilla. You're reminding me what this gala was meant to be. He paused, his eyes locking onto hers. Stay. Give me a chance to do the right thing. Camilla didn't know how to respond. All she knew was that, in that moment, Adrian's gaze wasn't that of a powerful CEO, but of a man searching for something to believe in, and she, despite her fear and confusion, couldn't turn away. Camilla stood still in the VIP lounge, the glass of water in her hand long since gone cold. Adrian Blackwell's words, "Give me a chance to do the right thing," kept echoing in her mind. But they did little to calm the storm inside her. Lisa Vaughn had just left, leaving behind an air thick with unspoken threats. Camilla knew she didn't belong in this world, a world of million-dollar gowns, polite smiles hiding sharp agendas, and handshakes laced with schemes. But the unwavering look in Adrian's eyes made it hard to walk away. Are you ready? Adrian asked, his voice low but not forceful. He adjusted his tuxedo collar, his gaze resting on her not to judge, but to reassure. Ready? For what? Camilla whispered, her fingers tightening around the frayed hem of her dress. She felt like a sparrow trapped in a gilded cage, with all eyes outside waiting to tear her apart. Adrian's lips curled into a rare but razor-sharp smile. For the gala, I want you to come with me not as a guest, but as my invitation. Camilla's eyes widened, her throat dry. But I'm not on the guest list, and Ms. Vaughn, she won't like this. She doesn't need to like it, Adrian replied, his voice icy. This is my family's foundation, and I decide who belongs here. You came for your sister, didn't you? Then let me help you say that out loud. Camilla wanted to refuse, wanted to run from the spotlight and whispered rumors. But the image of Emma lying in her hospital bed, wearing that fragile smile, rose in her mind. She took a deep breath and nodded. All right, but only for Emma. Adrian gave a small nod, opened the VIP lounge door, and motioned for her to follow. When they stepped back into the main ballroom of the Rittenhouse Hotel, the air seemed to shift. The crowd was still chatting and sipping champagne, but all eyes turned instantly to Camilla and Adrian. The violin music continued to play, but all Camilla could hear was the pounding of her own heart. Adrian led her to the center of the room, where a small stage had been set for speeches. He stepped onto the podium and signaled the band to stop. Silence fell, broken only by the soft clinks of glasses and fading murmurs. Camilla stood just below the stage, feeling like the entire world was watching her. Ladies and gentlemen, Adrian began, his voice clear and commanding. Tonight, we gather to honor those who've given back to the community, like my mother, the founder of the Blackwell Foundation. But I'd like to introduce someone special, Camilla Carter, sister of Emma Carter, a nurse who once cared for my mother with great devotion. Camilla isn't here for fame, but to find hope for her sister. She reminded me that compassion doesn't require a guest list. The ballroom erupted in applause, but Camilla could tell not all of it was genuine. Some smiled awkwardly, others whispered behind raised glasses. In the corner of the room, Lisa Vaughn stood watching, her red lips curled into a smile that hid far more than it revealed. Camilla felt her face flush, not with pride, but with shame. She hadn't asked to be the center of attention. She didn't want to be Adrian's charity case. After the speech, Adrian escorted her through the crowd, introducing her to a few sponsors. Camilla forced a smile, answered questions about Emma, but the way people looked at her made her skin crawl. They didn't really care. To them, she was just a touching anecdote to repeat over hors d'oeuvres. When the gala finally ended, Camilla thought she could breathe again. But the next morning, her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Her roommate, Maya, tossed the iPhone across the breakfast table in their cramped apartment. Mila, you're famous, she said, half laughing, half worried, but not in a good way. Camilla opened Twitter, and her heart stopped. A post from a popular account with tens of thousands of followers was going viral. CEO Adrian Blackwell dumps fiancée Lisa Vaughn for a poor girl at the Rittenhouse Gala. Modern-day Cinderella or PR stunt. The post featured a blurry photo of her standing next to Adrian, her worn dress and cheap flats zoomed in with the caption, "Fashion from Goodwill?" The comments sliced like knives. "She's clearly a gold digger." "Poor Lisa, dumped for a social climber." "Is Adrian blind?" Camilla scrolled with shaking hands, nearly dropping the phone. She wasn't famous. She was a punchline. "Mila, shut it off," Maya said, pulling the phone from her grip. "Don't let internet nobodies mess with your head." But Camilla couldn't stop thinking. She had only wanted to help Emma, and now she was trapped in a narrative she never asked for. She texted the gala organizer's number, hoping to reach Adrian. "Thank you for helping me last night. I'm sorry. I don't want to cause you trouble. Please don't contact me again." She hit send, then powered off her phone, trying not to cry. Elsewhere in Philadelphia, in the sleek 50th floor office of Blackwell Enterprises, Adrian sat in front of a computer screen, reading the same tweet. His eyes darkened, hand tightening around his coffee cup. Beside him, his assistant James shook his head. "Sir, the media's blowing this up. Should I get PR on it?" "No," Adrian said, his voice steely. "They want to play this game? Fine. I'll show them I'm serious." He stood looking out the window where the city lights sparkled. He didn't know what Camilla was thinking, but he knew one thing. He wasn't going to let her face this storm alone. Meanwhile, in a penthouse across Center City, Lisa Vaughn lounged on a leather chair, scrolling through the viral tweet with a cold smile. She sipped her wine and sent a text to a hidden contact. "Find me everything on Camilla Carter. I want to know it all." She set the phone down, eyes glinting with danger. If Adrian wanted to cast her as the villain, she'd make sure he paid the price for this game. Unaware of the storm brewing around her, Camilla sat curled on the edge of her bed, knees to her chest. She thought of Emma, of the promise she'd made to save her. But right now, all she wanted was to disappear. The world of the powerful wasn't meant for someone like her, and she feared that, once again, she'd be cast aside. Camilla curled up on a plastic chair in the hallway of Jefferson Hospital, the harsh fluorescent lights above casting a pale glow that made her face look as white as paper. The beeping of the heart monitor in Emma's room echoed steadily, each sound hitting her like a hammer to the chest. The doctor had just informed her that Emma's lupus had worsened, with complications affecting her kidneys. Without a new treatment plan, which could cost tens of thousands of dollars, Emma might not have much time left. Camilla clutched her phone tightly. The screen was still black since she sent that message to the gala organizers the morning before. She had hoped that message would end everything, that she could return to her invisible life, where no one noticed her frayed dress or secondhand shoes. But the world didn't let go so easily. Ever since the viral Twitter post about the Rittenhouse Hotel Gala, Camilla's life had turned into a nightmare. Anonymous accounts had begun digging into her past, posting old photos. Camilla in a waitress uniform at a diner in South Philly. Camilla cleaning offices late at night. Camilla standing in line for a tuition assistance program. Another post from an account claiming to be an insider read, "A busser climbing onto the banquet table. Who is Camilla Carter and why is Adrienne Blackwell so enchanted?" Each comment felt like a dagger. "She's definitely a gold digger. Look at that outfit, pure thrift store. Lisa Vaughn is the one who deserves Adrienne." Camilla had tried not to read them, but the words etched themselves into her mind. She wasn't just being mocked, she had become a punchline, an interloper in Philadelphia's high society. "Mila, are you okay?" Maya's voice, her roommate's, snapped Camilla back to reality. Maya had rushed to the hospital after her shift, hair tousled and eyes filled with concern. "You didn't answer my texts all day. How's Emma?" Camilla shook her head, tears threatening to spill as she bit her lip. "She's not doing well. The doctor said she needs a new treatment plan. But the money?" She stopped, her voice breaking. "And now the whole city thinks she's the victim of someone like me." Maya knelt in front of her and took her hands. "Don't let those words break you. They don't know you. They don't know Emma. They're just jealous you had Adrienne Blackwell standing beside you." "But that's the problem," Camilla burst out, louder than she intended. "He shouldn't have done that. He doesn't understand that when he pulled me into the spotlight, I wasn't protected, I was shredded." She buried her face in her hands, shoulders trembling. "Emma doesn't need me to be famous. She needs me to save her." Maya wrapped her in a hug, but no comfort could ease the ache. Camilla opened her phone again and reread the message she'd sent. She had thought cutting ties with Adrienne would protect Emma and herself. But that morning, a text from an unknown number had shaken her. "Camilla, it's Adrienne. I respect your decision, but please give me a chance to talk. Not because of the gala, because of Emma." She stared at the screen, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. A part of her wanted to respond, wanted to believe he truly cared. But then she remembered the Twitter comments, the sneering eyes at the gala, and Lisa's cold voice. "Obsessed fangirl." She deleted the message, her hands shaking, and powered off her phone. She couldn't let herself get pulled back into Adrienne's world again. Elsewhere in Philadelphia, inside a lavish penthouse in Center City, Lisa Vaughn sat in front of her laptop, fingers scrolling through a freshly received email from a private investigator. The attached file listed everything about Camilla, her school transcripts, job history, Emma's medical bills, even the address of their rundown apartment. Lisa smirked and took a sip of red wine. "How disappointing," she murmured. "I expected something more scandalous." She opened Twitter, where the latest post from an anonymous account, one she discreetly controlled, was gaining thousands of interactions. A photo of Camilla in a waitress uniform had been edited with bold text. "From diner floor to ballroom star, Philadelphia's Cinderella story." Lisa typed a message to her assistant. "Push harder. I want her gone from Adrienne's life." Lisa wasn't naive. She knew Adrienne couldn't be manipulated easily, but she also knew his greatest weakness: integrity. If she could make Camilla look like a stain on his reputation, Adrienne would have to choose between his image and the poor girl. And Lisa was willing to bet he'd choose his image. Camilla returned to the apartment close to midnight, after staying at the hospital until Emma finally drifted off to sleep. She sat at the small table, opened her laptop, and searched for alternate funding options, grants, foundations, anything that didn't involve Adrienne. But every website, every article referenced the gala, the mysterious woman beside Adrienne Blackwell. She slammed the laptop shut, feeling like the weight of the world was pressing down on her chest. She didn't know that at Jefferson Hospital, a large anonymous donation had already been deposited into Emma's treatment account with a note, Anonymous, Blackwell Foundation. She also didn't know that, in his office on the 50th floor of Blackwell Enterprises, Adrian was reading detailed analytics on the Twitter posts, his ocean blue eyes flashing with fury. He turned to his assistant, James, his voice like ice. Find out who's behind those posts. I want names by tomorrow morning. All Camilla knew was this. She had tried to step into the world of the elite, and once again, she'd been cast out. She hugged her knees to her chest, tears falling in silence. But deep in her heart, she made herself a promise. For Emma, I won't give up, no matter what they say. Camilla sat on a plastic chair in the hallway of Jefferson Hospital, her tired eyes fixed on the closed door to Emma's room. It had been 3 days since she deleted Adrian Blackwell's message and decided to cut all ties with him in the glittering world of flashing cameras and venomous whispers. But that morning, a hospital staff member called her into the finance office with a notice that left her speechless. A large sum enough to cover Emma's new treatment plan had been deposited into the hospital account, marked Anonymous, Blackwell Foundation. Camilla clenched her fists, her nails digging into her palms. She wasn't naive. There was only one person who could have done this, Adrian. But why? What did he want from her? A public thank you to polish his image? Or worse, did he see her as a charity case in need of salvation? She had made herself clear in her message to the gala organizers she didn't want anything to do with him. So why couldn't he just let her go? She stood up and walked into the hallway, the chill of the hospital's AC raising goosebumps on her arms. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, but she ignored it. She didn't want to read any more tweets, didn't want to see another post calling her Philadelphia's Cinderella or a gold digger. But as she pulled out her phone to silence it, a new message from Adrian appeared. Camilla, I know you don't want to talk, but I'm at Jefferson Hospital main lobby. 5 minutes. For Emma. Camilla froze, her heart pounding. He was here? Right now? She wanted to run, to hide inside Emma's room and pretend she'd never seen the message. But the treatment money, the gift she didn't ask for, but couldn't reject, weighed heavily on her. At the very least, he deserved a thank you. She took a deep breath, wiped the sweat from her forehead, and walked toward the main lobby. Adrian stood there in a simple white shirt and black slacks, worlds away from the polished tuxedo he'd worn at the gala. He was talking to a hospital staff member, but when he saw Camilla, he stopped, his deep blue eyes locking onto hers. Thank you for coming, he said, his voice low and sincere. Camilla folded her arms, keeping her distance. You paid for Emma, she said, her tone colder than she intended. Thank you, but I didn't ask you to. I know, Adrian replied without hesitation. I didn't do it for gratitude. I did it because Emma deserves it, and because... He paused, something flickering in his gaze. Because you reminded me that I used to believe in something bigger than my own reputation? Camilla frowned, feeling like the ground beneath her had shifted. You don't understand, she said, her voice shaking. Every time you pull me into your world, I get torn apart. Twitter, the press, Lisa Vaughn, they don't leave me alone. I just want to save my sister, not become someone's story. Adrian stepped closer but stopped when she instinctively stepped back. I'm sorry, he said, his voice softer. I didn't know it would go this far, but I'm trying to make it right. I've had my team look into the Twitter posts. They're not random, Camilla. Someone is targeting you. Camilla blinked, her heart skipping a beat. You mean someone hired people to do this? Her thoughts jumped instantly to Lisa, her icy smile, her sweet voice laced with threat at the gala. But Camilla shook her head. She didn't want to believe it. Why? I'm nothing to them. You're everything to me, Adrian said. Silence. He turned away as if surprised by his own words. I mean, you reminded me that kindness still exists, and I can't stand by while you're being hurt because of me. Camilla felt her face burn, her heart racing. She wanted to believe him, to believe that he wasn't just a CEO chasing image and control. But she couldn't. Not while Emma lay in a hospital bed. Not while the world called her a homewrecker. Thank you, for Emma, she said hoarsely. But please, don't look for me again. She turned and walked quickly back down the hall, leaving Adrian alone in the main lobby. She didn't see his eyes follow her, conflicted, raw, and carrying a feeling he still hadn't dared to name. In Center City, Lisa Vaughn sat in her office at a media firm, fingers tapping against the glass desk. Before her was a new email from the private investigator, subject line, Camilla Carter, contact with med school. Lisa's lips curled as she opened the attachment. It contained information on Camilla's scholarship at the University of Pennsylvania, where she was studying nursing. A handwritten note from the investigator caught Lisa's eye. Scholarship may be revoked if ethical violations are reported. Lisa picked up her phone and dialed a contact on the university's board. Good afternoon, this is Lisa Vaughn, she said sweetly. I have information about a student who may negatively affect the school's reputation. Camilla Carter. I think you'll want to hear this. When the call ended, Lisa leaned back in her chair and took a slow sip of coffee. I can make sure no med school ever takes you, Camilla, she murmured, her eyes gleaming with malice. If Adrian wanted to play the knight, she'd make sure the poor girl had nothing left to save. Camilla returned to Emma's hospital room and sat beside her, gently holding her sister's frail hand. Emma opened her eyes and offered a weak smile. Mila, you look exhausted. What's wrong? Camilla shook her head and forced a smile. Nothing, sis. I'm just worried about you. She didn't mention Adrian. She didn't mention the money. She didn't mention Twitter. She didn't want to burden Emma with any more than she already bore. But later that night, as she stepped outside the hospital, her phone buzzed. An email notification appeared. Urgent meeting requested with scholarship committee. Please attend Monday to address allegations regarding your conduct. Camilla stood frozen under the streetlight, her breath caught in her throat. She didn't know who was behind it, but she felt the invisible hand tightening around her future, and it smelled like Lisa Vaughn. She wrapped her arms around herself, tears falling silently. She should never have let Adrian into her life. She should never have let herself feel that flicker of hope when he looked at her. But deep down, no matter how hard she tried to deny it, a part of her heart had already begun to fall for the man she shouldn't love, but did. Still following the story? If this story found you outside of Soul Stories, we invite you home to where every touching tale begins with truth, hope, and heart. Camilla stood outside a law office in downtown Philadelphia, her hands tightly gripping the strap of her purse. The letter she had received that morning's subject line, regarding the case of Mrs. Mary Carter, had kept her awake all night. She didn't understand why a lawyer would contact her after so many years since her mother's death. But the final line, involving the Blackwell Corporation and Emma Carter, made it impossible to ignore. She had left Emma at Jefferson Hospital with a promise to return soon and took the bus here, her heart weighed down with dread. Inside the office, the air was cool and smelled of polished wood, with the steady tapping of keyboards in the background. A silver-haired woman introduced herself as Mrs. Helen Carter, a medical malpractice attorney. She led Camilla into a small conference room where a thick folder lay on the table. Ms. Carter, she began, her voice low and precise, I contacted you about an old case involving your mother, Mrs. Mary Carter, and the Blackwell Corporation. I believe you have the right to know the truth, especially since you're currently receiving support from their foundation. Camilla frowned, the floor seeming to tilt beneath her feet. A case? You mean, what happened? All she had known was that her mother, a devoted nurse, had once sued a major company over a medical error when Camilla was a child, but her mother rarely spoke of it. After Mary passed from cancer, Camilla and Emma never brought it up again. Mrs. Carter slid the file toward her. In 2018, your mother worked at a hospital under the Blackwell Corporation's management. She discovered that a doctor had covered up a surgical mistake that led to a patient's death. Mrs. Mary filed a lawsuit not for money, but for justice. The case caused a massive scandal and... She paused, her eyes grave. It implicated Robert Blackwell, Adrian's father. Camilla's throat went dry. Adrian's father? But what does that have to do with me? Mrs. Carter sighed. After the scandal, Robert was accused of approving the faulty equipment. The media storm and internal backlash drove him into depression. Eventually, he took his own life. Your mother's lawsuit didn't directly cause his death, but to the Blackwell family, Mary Carter was the spark that lit the fire. I discovered this while reviewing the case files for another lawsuit, and when I found out you were connected to Adrian Blackwell, I thought you should know." Camilla shook her head, tears brimming. "My mom never told us. She only said she wanted to protect patients." She buried her face in her hands, feeling the weight of the past crushing her. "And Emma, why did you say this involves her?" Mrs. Carter pulled out another document. "Emma was a witness. At the time, she was a nursing intern. She provided evidence that supported your mother's claim. I'm worried that if you continue accepting aid from the Blackwell Foundation, this past may be dug up, and it could hurt both you and Emma." Camilla sat in stunned silence, her world unraveling. She thought about Emma's treatment, about Adrian's sincere eyes at the hospital. Did he know? Had he pulled her in as revenge for his father's death? Or was he just as unaware as she had been? At Blackwell Corporation's office, Adrian sat at his desk, his ocean blue eyes locked on a new report from his social media investigation team. The results confirmed his suspicion. The defamatory Twitter posts targeting Camilla originated from a media company with ties to Lisa Vaughn. His fist clenched as fury rose in his chest. He had suspected Lisa, but this was undeniable. She hadn't just played dirty. She was trying to destroy Camilla. Just then, his assistant James knocked and entered with a silver-haired woman. "Sir, this is Mrs. Helen Carter. She says she has important information regarding Ms. Camilla Carter." Adrian gestured for her to sit, but as she began to explain the lawsuit involving Mary Carter, his father, the scandal, and the suicide that followed, his face turned pale. "What are you saying?" he asked, voice hoarse. "Camilla? She's connected to this?" Mrs. Carter nodded and placed the file in front of him. "Her mother filed the lawsuit. Her sister Emma was a witness. I'm not saying they were at fault, but if this goes public, it could hurt both families." Adrian flipped through the pages, his hand trembling. He remembered those days vividly, his father's death, his mother crying quietly through the night, the whispers in the boardroom about the downfall of the Blackwell name. He had sworn to restore their legacy. And now Camilla, the girl who had shaken his soul, was the daughter of the woman who started it all. Camilla returned to Jefferson Hospital, her mind in chaos. She sat beside Emma but said nothing about her meeting with Mrs. Carter. When Emma finally drifted to sleep, Camilla gathered her strength and sent a message from a public hospital phone. "I just learned about my mother and your father. I'm sorry for what my family may have caused, but I'm not here to dig up the past. I came to save Emma, who's barely hanging on. Please let us be." She hit send, tears sliding silently down her cheeks. She didn't expect a reply. She just wanted to end it before the past destroyed everything she had left. But back in his office, Adrian read the message, his heart aching. He looked at the file, then at the glittering Philadelphia skyline. He didn't blame Camilla, but the truth cut like a knife. He needed time to understand, to decide. But one thing was clear. He couldn't let her face this alone. At Lisa Vaughn's office, a new email arrived. "Mary Carter lawsuit files sent to press. Will be published tomorrow." Lisa smiled, tapping her fingers on the desk. She didn't realize this time she had lit a fuse on a storm far bigger than she could control. Adrian Blackwell stood before the floor-to-ceiling windows of his 50th floor office at Blackwell Corporation, his deep blue eyes scanning the busy streets of Philadelphia below. In his hands was the morning paper, bold headlines screaming across the top. "Blackwell lawsuit resurfaces, Gala girl linked to Robert Blackwell's death?" The article cited leaked documents from Mary Carter's lawsuit, Camilla's mother, and implied that Camilla was exploiting the Blackwell Foundation to atone for her family's past. Adrian crushed the paper in his fist, rage burning through him. He knew exactly who was behind this. Lisa Vaughn. That morning, the board had called an emergency meeting, demanding an explanation for the scandal surrounding Camilla and the foundation. "You're damaging the Blackwell legacy," Harold Grayson, a senior board member, said coldly. "Cut ties with that girl or we'll reconsider your position." But Adrian didn't waver. He had read Camilla's message the night before. "I'm sorry for what my family might have caused. I came only to save Emma." Those words, wounded yet sincere, struck a chord in him, and he realized something. He couldn't let ambition silence his heart. "James," Adrian said sharply, turning to his assistant, "draft a statement. I'm ending my engagement to Lisa Vaughn and schedule a press conference. I'm telling the truth publicly. James blinked in disbelief. Sir, this will trigger a media storm. The board. The board doesn't run my life, Adrian cut him off, his gaze steely. Do it, now! At Jefferson Hospital, Camilla sat beside Emma's bed, struggling to mask the fear curling inside her. The email from the med school regarding conduct allegations loomed like a guillotine, and the morning's headlines had pushed her to the edge. Twitter was ablaze again, with hashtags like #Camilla Scandal spreading fast. She seduced Adrian to hide her family's crimes. They ruined Blackwell once, now they want his money. Camilla shut her phone off, but the words seared into her mind. Emma, though weak, reached out and squeezed her hand. Mila, I saw the article. Don't let them break you. Mom did the right thing, and so are you. Camilla shook her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. But they think I'm a gold digger. They think I used him. And now, the med school might expel me. She buried her face in her hands, shoulders trembling. I just wanted to save you. Emma stroked her hair gently, her voice raspy but firm. You don't need fame to save me. You just need to be Mila, the girl who always gets back up, even when the world pushes her down. Emma's words pierced the fog like a beam of light, but Camilla still felt like she was drowning. She didn't know a greater storm was about to break downtown. At an upscale hotel in Rittenhouse Square, Lisa Vaughn stood before a forest of microphones. Her white tailored suit radiated power. Her press conference had drawn dozens of reporters, all eager for the headline, Lisa Vaughn speaks out on gala scandal. Cameras flashed. Lisa smiled, but her eyes were icy. I don't want to make this personal, she began, her voice sugar-sweet but razor-sharp. But I must defend the reputation of the Blackwell Foundation and the Blackwell family. Camilla Carter exploited Adrian's kindness to force her way into our world. She knew what her family had done, yet chose to appear and reopen old wounds. Reporters erupted with questions. Do you have proof, Ms. Vaughn? Are you saying Adrian was manipulated? Lisa raised a hand, silencing the room. I only want the truth to be respected, she said before walking away, leaving a wave of speculation in her wake. Her remarks went viral within hours, pushing Camilla Scandal to the top of trending topics. At the hospital, Camilla watched the footage on Maya's phone, her heart cracking at the sight of Lisa's face on screen. She turned off the TV, her chest tightened. She wanted to scream, I didn't use anyone. I just wanted to save my sister. But who would believe her? At that very moment, in the Blackwell boardroom, Adrian stepped into the hastily assembled press conference. He wore a simple black shirt, no tuxedo, no glamour, just quiet authority and a fire in his eyes. Cameras turned. Reporters went silent. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, voice steady and strong. Today, I want to clarify a few things. First, I have ended my engagement to Miss Lisa Vaughn, not because of Camilla Carter, but because I cannot marry someone who chooses legacy over love, reputation over truth. The room fell silent except for the rapid clicks of cameras. Second, regarding Camilla Carter, she is not a gold digger. She is not an opportunist. She is a nursing student who works tirelessly to save her sister, Emma Carter, a woman who once cared for my mother during her illness. The rumors online, the tweets smearing her name, they were fabricated by those with something to lose, those who fear the truth. He paused, scanning the crowd. Lastly, I'm establishing a new scholarship in honor of my mother, Elizabeth Blackwell. It will support medical students like Camilla, those who live with integrity, no matter where they come from. Reporters exploded with questions, but Adrian stepped down from the podium without another word. On social media, the hashtag #Blackwell Scholarship began trending, overtaking #Camilla Scandal. Some hailed him a hero. Others, Lisa's allies, accused him of whitewashing a scandal. Camilla watched the press conference on Maya's phone, her heartbeat erratic. She didn't know what to feel, gratitude that Adrian had defended her, or fear that he dragged her into an even bigger storm. She looked at Emma, still asleep in the hospital bed, and whispered, Do I deserve this? Elsewhere in Center City, Lisa hurled her wine glass at the wall, her face twisted in rage. She grabbed her phone, fuming as the Blackwell Scholarship soared across the internet. He thinks he's won? He gave up everything for her? She muttered to herself, then typed out a message to her private investigator. Find more dirt, anything. Prove her mother sued for money. I want her destroyed. Back at Blackwell Corporation, Adrian stood by the window, his phone clenched in his hand. He had chosen Camilla. Not because of love, at least, not a love he dared name yet, but because she was the one person who made him want to be better. And he knew this battle wasn't over. You're watching Soul Stories exclusive to our channel. If you're still with us, drop a comment, we read and cherish them all. Subscribe to support more heartfelt, original stories. Thanks for being part of the Soul Stories family. Camilla Carter sat curled up in her cramped apartment in South Philly, the dim light from a cheap bulb casting shadows across her phone screen. She had just rewatched the press conference where Adrian Blackwell publicly broke off his engagement to Lisa Vaughn and defended her before the world. But instead of feeling relief, her chest was heavy. He had dragged her back into the spotlight again, and she knew the price. The email from med school still demanded a hearing for her conduct violation, and on Twitter, #sign Camilla Scandal still screamed louder than #sign Blackwell Scholarship. She hugged her knees to her chest, thinking about the message she had sent Adrian the night before about her mother's lawsuit and his father's death. She had hoped he would leave her alone. So why did he choose to stand against the world for her? Didn't he hate her and her family? She didn't need to be rescued. She just needed Emma to live. Then her phone buzzed with a new alert from a local news outlet. Adrian Blackwell calls emergency press conference. The truth behind the 2018 Blackwell lawsuit. Camilla's heart pounded. What is he doing? She opened the live stream. Adrian stood tall, the Blackwell Corporation logo behind him, his gaze sharp, unwavering. At the Philadelphia Convention Center, Adrian faced a forest of microphones as camera flashes burst like fireworks. Beside him stood Helen Carter, the attorney, holding a thick 2018 legal file. The board had strongly opposed the press conference, warning that dredging up the past would tarnish Blackwell's legacy. But Adrian didn't care. After working with his team, he had uncovered a devastating truth. His father, Robert Blackwell, was not responsible for the patient's death in 2018. Ladies and gentlemen, Adrian began, his voice clear and steady, today I want to set the record straight on the 2018 lawsuit involving Blackwell Corporation, an incident weaponized to smear an innocent woman, Camilla Carter. He paused, letting the room settle. Her mother, Mary Carter, was a nurse who discovered a faulty pacemaker used during surgery at one of our hospitals, a device that led to a patient's death. She filed a lawsuit not for money, but to prevent this from happening again. He nodded to Mrs. Carter, who placed the file on the table. These records prove that Mary acted in pursuit of justice, Adrian continued. But my father, Robert Blackwell, was blamed for approving the device. The truth is, he didn't know. The equipment was swapped by its supplier, Richard Vaughn, Lisa Vaughn's father. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Forged documents from Vaughn's company deceived my father, a man known for his uncompromising integrity. The room was still, the only sound the clicking of cameras. Adrian took a deep breath, his voice roughening. My father couldn't accept that he had done everything right and still caused harm. The media, the board, the accusations. It broke him. He fell into depression, and he took his life. My mother and I were left in silence and grief. His eyes glistened but did not waver. I once believed Mary Carter was to blame, but she was brave, standing against injustice when no one else would. And her daughter, Camilla Carter, doesn't need my protection. He looked straight into the camera, his voice soft but sure. Her quiet kindness, the way she comforted a stranger in grief, her unshakable strength in the face of cruelty, those things saved me. Not the other way around. He swallowed, his eyes filled with emotion. I'm sorry for what my family has put you and Emma through. From this day forward, the Blackwell Foundation will not just bear a name, it will protect people like Mary, Camilla, and Emma. The press erupted in questions, but Adrian stepped down, leaving the lights and noise behind. On Twitter, the tides shifted. Basha Justice for Mary and Vaughn scandal began trending. For the first time, support for Camilla overtook the smear campaign. Lisa Vaughn helped hide her father's crime. Adrian Blackwell is a real leader. In her apartment, Camilla ended the live stream, tears slipping down her cheeks. She hadn't expected Adrian to go this far. To expose Richard Vaughn, to clear her mother's name, to carry the storm so she didn't have to. Gratitude bloomed in her chest, but so did fear. Lisa and her father would never forgive this. Just then, a new email pinged. Not from the disciplinary committee, but from the scholarship office. Allegations have been dropped. Your scholarship remains intact. Camilla froze. She didn't know if Adrian was behind it, but she felt his hand in it all the same. Across town in Center City, Lisa Vaughn sat motionless in her penthouse, her eyes blank. Her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. She had just gotten off a call with her father, Richard Vaughn, who had phoned from New York, his voice like a blade through the speaker. Lisa, what have you done? I buried that secret 17 years ago. I thought it was over, but you, because of your pride, sparked the fire that exposed everything. Lisa trembled, trying to explain. Dad, I just wanted to protect us. I didn't know Adrian would... Enough! His voice was ice. My company is being sued. The press is tearing into our records. The FBI is asking about falsified contracts. All because... Office you! The line went dead. Lisa sat in suffocating silence. She opened Twitter. The trending tag burned her eyes. Number Vaughn scandal. Thousands of posts. Richard Vaughn sold faulty equipment, caused a patient's death. Lisa Vaughn knew and tried to ruin Camilla instead. She hadn't just failed to destroy Camilla. She had pulled her entire family into collapse. Richard Vaughn, once untouchable, was now facing justice. Lisa buried her face in her hands as tears spilled freely. Not out of remorse, but because she knew she had lost. She had lit the match that brought her own world crashing down. Camilla stood up, wiped her cheeks, and looked out the window at the flickering lights of Philadelphia. She thought of her mother, of Emma, of Adrian. He had carried the burden for her, but she didn't want to be a weight on anyone's shoulders. She opened her laptop and began to type. A letter. She didn't know if she would ever send it, but in it were the words she had never dared to say. In his office, Adrian sat alone, the 2018 files spread before him. He had no regrets. But he knew the war wasn't over. Richard Vaughn wouldn't go down quietly. The board was already circling, waiting for his fall. But then he thought of Camilla, the way she had looked at him at the hospital, and he knew he would do it all again if it meant she could walk free. Camilla Carter sat at the old wooden desk in her small South Philly apartment, the glow from her laptop screen casting soft light across her weary face. The letter she had written to Adrian Blackwell glowed on the screen, every word a piece of her heart gratitude tangled with fear, pride woven tightly with the quiet desperation to protect Emma. Adrian, I don't know where to begin. You did something I never even dared to dream. You stood up for my mother, for Emma, and for me in front of the entire world. Your kindness, the way you stood for the truth, made me believe good people still exist. But with every step you take, I feel like I'm becoming more of a burden. I don't want to be someone you have to save. I just want Emma to live. I want to live free from the spotlight. I'm sorry that my mother's past brought pain to your family. I never knew your father, but I know you chose the truth, even when it hurt. I can't stay in Philadelphia, not because I'm afraid, but because I need to find myself again. Thank you for everything, but please let me go. Camilla. She read it over once more, her finger hovering over the send button. Then she shut the laptop. She wouldn't email it. She would write it by hand. Adrian's press conference, where he exposed Richard Vaughn's wrongdoing and defended her mother, had changed everything. Twitter flooded with hashtags like Number Justice for Mary and Number Vaughn Scandal. For the first time, Camilla saw support. Camilla Carter is a hero just like her mother. Lisa Vaughn owes her an apology. But Camilla knew the cost Adrian had paid. Reports said the Blackwell Corporation's board of directors was holding emergency meetings to reconsider Adrian's role as CEO. One article even hinted that Richard Vaughn might sue Adrian for defamation. Camilla felt like she couldn't breathe. She didn't want to be the reason he lost everything. She stood, packed a few clothes into her backpack. She had decided to leave Philadelphia, at least for now, so Emma could continue her treatment without being hounded by reporters. She would stay with an aunt in New Jersey, find part-time work, and continue her nursing degree online. She left a handwritten note for Emma on the table. "Sis, I'll be back when the noise settles down. Get better for me." As she pulled the curtain back, the lights of Philadelphia shimmered like they were trying to hold her there. She thought of her mother, of Adrian, of the sleepless nights she had spent working to pay Emma's hospital bills. She didn't regret being kind, but she did wonder if she was strong enough to face what lay ahead. 50 floors above the city in his office at Blackwell Corporation, Adrian sat at his desk, eyes fixed on an email from the corporate attorney. Richard Vaughn had filed a formal lawsuit accusing Adrian of damaging his company's reputation. The board demanded Adrian retract his statements about the 2018 lawsuit. He refused. He had uncovered internal emails from 2018 proving that Richard Vaughn had knowingly supplied faulty medical equipment to cut costs despite warnings from technicians. Those emails, along with the file from Helen Carter, were undeniable proof that Adrian's father, Robert Blackwell, had been deceived, a man of integrity who paid with his life for trusting the wrong partner. Adrian thought of Camilla, of the message she had sent that night. "I'm sorry for what my family has caused." He didn't blame her. He didn't blame her mother. Mary Carter had been the only one brave enough to speak up, while his father, despite his honesty, had been misled by blind trust in someone like Richard. He opened his laptop and tried to find her, but Camilla had deactivated her social media, and her phone was no longer in service. A hollowness settled in his chest, not just because she was gone, but because he realized she was the only one who had ever made him want to face the truth. James, his assistant, knocked gently and entered. "Sir, a letter arrived at the office. No sender listed, but I think you'll want to read it." He handed over a plain white envelope, in delicate handwriting, to Adrian Blackwell. Adrian opened it, heart pounding as he recognized Camilla's handwriting. He read every line, feeling her pain, her pride, her quiet goodbye. When he reached the line, "I don't want to be a burden," his grip tightened on the letter. Anger flared not at her, but at himself for making her feel that way. He stood, turning to James. "Find her. I need to know where she is." But then he stopped. He read the letter again. Camilla didn't want him to chase her. She needed him to honor her decision. Instead of finding her, Adrian did what he knew she would appreciate most. He transferred a large portion of his personal assets into the Blackwell Foundation, renaming it, With Me, a scholarship fund for underprivileged nursing students like Camilla. He wanted her to know that no matter where she went, she had changed him. In Center City, Lisa Vaughn sat alone in her penthouse, her eyes glazed. Her father, Richard, had cut contact, leaving her to handle the consequences. The press now called him the man who sold death. His company faced multiple lawsuits and was under investigation by the FBI. Lisa opened Twitter. On her Vaughn scandal was still trending. She tried texting her private investigator, no reply. She had lost not just to Adrian, but to her own family. Her father, who had once been so confident the secret about the faulty equipment would stay buried, now blamed her for digging it back up. Lisa buried her face in her hands, loneliness wrapping around her like a vice. She didn't regret smearing Camilla, but she did regret underestimating Adrian Blackwell. Camilla boarded the bus to New Jersey, her eyes lingering on the city as it faded behind her. She didn't know about the With Me scholarship. She didn't know Adrian was still holding her letter. In her pocket, she carried a photo of her mother and Emma, and in her heart, a promise. She would return when she was strong enough. At Jefferson Hospital, Emma opened her eyes and spotted the letter Camilla had left on the bedside table. She smiled weakly and whispered, "Mila, you've always been stronger than you think." She didn't know that somewhere else, Adrian was thinking the exact same thing. 1 year later, the gala lights of the With Me Foundation at the Rittenhouse Hotel glowed brightly but no longer with the artificial opulence of last year's event. Large boards displayed stories of medical students who had received scholarships, with a portrait of Mary Carter at the center, and the words, "The brave nurse who stood up for justice." Camilla Carter, now a healthcare coordinator for the foundation, stood quietly in a corner, wearing a simple yet elegant blue dress. Her eyes lit up as she watched students converse with donors. Though her heart remained heavy, remembering the letter she had left for Adrian Blackwell a year earlier. Camilla had returned to Philadelphia after spending time in New Jersey, where she worked part-time and studied online to complete her nursing degree. Emma, thanks to a treatment plan funded by the Blackwell Foundation, was now doing better, though still under medical supervision. Camilla was no longer the trembling girl in a worn dress from the gala that once was. She had found herself again by helping underprivileged students, people like her, with big dreams and small beginnings. But as she stepped into the main lobby, a security guard stopped her. "Ma'am, your name's not on the VIP guest list," he said politely but firmly. Camilla smiled, used to misunderstandings. She reached for her employee badge from the With Me Foundation, but before she could speak, a deep voice rang out behind her. "Stop!" Camilla turned, her heart nearly stopping. Adrian Blackwell approached, wearing a simple black suit, his deep blue eyes locked on her. The crowd parted, whispers filled the room, yet no one raised a phone. Adrian stopped in front of her, his gaze gentle yet resolute. "She's with me," he said, his voice clear, echoing through the hall, just as he had said a year ago. This time, the entire room rose to applaud, not just for Adrian, but for Camilla, the woman who overcame scandal in the past, now standing proudly as part of the With Me Foundation. The press, who once dubbed her the Cinderella of Philadelphia, now wrote of her as a symbol of resilience. But Camilla didn't need that title. She only needed to see Emma smiling in the front row and to know her mother Mary would be proud. 1 year ago, justice had been served. Richard Vaughn, Lisa's father, was convicted for swapping out faulty medical devices, which had caused a patient's death in 2018. Internal emails discovered by Adrian became crucial evidence, leading to a wave of lawsuits and the collapse of Vaughn Corporation. Lisa, shunned by the media and public, left Philadelphia carrying isolation and guilt for having exposed her father's darkest secret. Richard, who thought his secret was buried forever, now paid the price, and he would never forgive Lisa's defiance. But justice came at a cost. The Blackwell Corporation's board of directors, furious that Adrian had made the 2018 files public, forced him to resign as CEO. They claimed he had damaged the company's reputation, even though he had salvaged his father Robert Blackwell's legacy, a man who took his own life after being deceived by Richard Vaughn. Adrian accepted their decision and left the 50th floor office with a quiet smile. He didn't need prestige. Camilla had taught him that through her selfless kindness and unwavering strength. After leaving Blackwell, Adrian went to find Camilla. He didn't use power or money, he simply traveled to New Jersey, relying on a lead from one of her former colleagues. On a rainy afternoon, he knocked on the door of her aunt's small apartment, where Camilla had been staying. When she opened the door and froze in shock, Adrian said softly, "I read your letter. I'm not here to save you, Camilla. I'm here to walk with you." Camilla stood still, tears welling in her eyes. She wanted to push him away, like she had before, but the sincerity in his eyes made her pause. They sat in the tiny kitchen, talking about Emma, about Mary, about Robert, the honorable father deceived by greed. Adrian shared that he had used his personal funds to expand the With Me Foundation, and now he wanted to do something even bigger. Build a community hospital in Philadelphia, where people like Emma could be treated without worrying about cost. "I don't know if I'm strong enough," Camilla said, her voice trembling. "I'm just a nursing student." Adrian took her hand gently but firmly. "You were the one who saved me, Camilla. Not with status, but with compassion and strength. Let me learn from you, and let's do this together." Camilla smiled for the first time, not feeling like a burden. She nodded, and from that moment, they began. At the gala, Adrian led Camilla onto the stage as he prepared to speak. He held her hand and whispered, "I'm no longer a CEO, but I've never felt freer. Thank you for giving me the chance to live truthfully." Camilla looked at him, feeling the warmth of his hand. She no longer feared the spotlight. She replied softly but firmly, "I'm here, Adrian, not for you, but for myself and for those who need us." Adrian nodded, his eyes glowing with pride. He stepped to the podium and began, "With me is more than a name. It's a promise that no one is left out just because they're not on a list. Camilla Carter is proof of that. And today I'm proud to announce we are building the Mary Carter Community Hospital, where every patient will be treated with compassion and dignity, just like Camilla lives her life." The room erupted in applause. Camilla stood tall, looking out over the crowd, spotting Emma wiping her tears in the front row. She thought of her mother, of the hard days past, and of Adrian, not the man who saved her, but the one who stood beside her. The new hospital, named after her mother, would be a legacy of kindness and strength, not fame. In the corner of the room, a reporter typed out a headline: Camilla Carter and Adrian Blackwell, from gala to hospital, a story of compassion. But Camilla didn't need headlines. She had found where she truly belonged, and this time no one could push her away.